Okay, let's see here. Um, when I put a video up, it's my mic. I'm using my mic to communicate with the entire cosmic all there is. Okay. So I had posted a link of the video that I had done. I believe it was the last one that I done about time looping. Right. And you're experiencing something that's already happened. I did a video on my Robert Owen channel that they shut down about how time and space work, vectors, arcing vectors, arcing electron and protons. And this is sort of when you get into, and I've certainly shared this before, about how we define and experience what gender means. So when I'm so being androgynous, I use certain words to describe how I experience being me. It's a single candle power. Okay, so that means that sound and light, okay, electrified sound and the primal light field is fused. Fission and fusion means they've joined forces to become one with all creation. Okay, that's an eternal fire, eternal flame. That's an eternal spirit that's on fire to accelerate the rate of speed in which everything that is alive and living in a cosmos is getting enough juice to know that they're loved. Okay, so now we're back 4 years of age. Okay, so I try and condense and take a vast library and just say, let's put all that information, all that visual mathematical codes represented by everything that's held within the crystalline records, actually any record-keeping management system for that matter. But let's just break down to the what I call the core building blocks of matter, elementals, the mineral kingdom, etc., and just to simplify it. I am what love is, and living spirit. Therefore, I know it goes on forever, because the energy is so powerful to use to create with and manifest what you experience with the love that you are, that you do it with. Okay? So if others don't experience that, well, now they're learning through me how I experience being what I am in energy that makes that happen and how it's made manifest into creation. It's called intention of your energy to manifest what love manifests. And it happens. Okay? Because it's the most powerful magic there is. The energy will change whatever it touches. By virtue of whatever is less than what that is, will now experience something that is higher than what that is. So we're talking lower consciousness, higher consciousness, because there's a greater amount of energy being released, manifested into creation, that what's there is now experiencing being loved. Okay? Because my sensors are experiencing that you're not experiencing that. So anything less than eternity, then eternity can bring eternity into the realm. So the reason I thought this was important is because Kanjoy, who's a dear soul friend of mine, asked me a question about the video that I had done. So I thought, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a short video and sort of explain to you. And then the next thing you know is here comes another video popped up with, what is it here? And it's directly tied to the same thing, actually, which was the channel is Emerald Covenant, which is YouTube. Emerald Covenant. Okay. A Covant. Ashadayan, Ashayaana, Ashayana Dian. I sort of put a French spin on it because my mother was French, right? And that would be workshop 14/21. 14/21. And she happened to mention something that was right over zero, center of that sphere, 7 minutes in. Numbers don't lie. 7 minutes into that video. Rainbow Bridge. And she mentioned a few words. She said transmutation field. Transmutation machine. That's what I do. She said we're like transmutation machines. And when she said that, I thought, bingo, you got that right. That is absolutely correct. We are transmutation machines. And the way that that works, and I wrote this down because I'm not going to remember it the same way that I experienced it when I was listening and receiving the signal from her, which means that what we're talking about is a transmutation machine held in bloodline, waterborne memory banks within a planetary consciousness Merkaba field of EFFI, which is electronic force field intelligence and creation spheres. Okay, so I've covered this in different videos over the last couple of years about I experience any loss of electrons in anything, so it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a worm, it could be a frog, it could be an eagle, it could be a whale, a dolphin, a fox, a rhinoceros, a lion, a polar bear, a panda bear. Take your pick. Remember how I've shared before, when I was 4 years of age, the first thing that I was aware of is for how long has energy harvesting been going on, which means energy is being harvested out of everything. So I've mentioned it's a killing field, which means the planet is in free fall, which means being sucked down a black hole. So now we're into what I mentioned before about a torque speed differential between an inverter, a sucking machine, right, and a torque converter, using love as creation energy to transmute and create a different experience. So this is why I mentioned in that particular video how I still get frequencies. Anything that I'm around, including there's residue in this house because 2 people have died in this house, right where I'm at in this room. Okay, not long before I got here. Okay, and then I was sleeping on a couch where a man had died about a month before I got into the house. They found him deceased, right there on the same couch that I was sleeping on when I first got here. So we're transmutation machines. And that's because we have a primal sound and light field connection, right? So my oversoul, right, down here in this avatar, I can adjust the frequency modulation, right, to retune it, to clear the distortions, right? To run what? A clear channel, which is called a clear signal. Why? So you can translate what I'm communicating to you. Right? If it's all garbled, right? It's just like, what is it? What is that signal? It's all distorted. We can't make out what's being transmitted through those neurons. Right? So we tune stars. Self-tuning stars. We know how to tune the star networks, all the gates, all the connections. So now you're back into the language of DNA, which is language of codes, which is the language of math, which is the language of music, which is the language of spirit, right? Soul arcing stars, right? And so when she mentioned this stuff, this is one of the reasons I put this stuff in your window, because there are so many videos that I realize that you're busy, your mind is busy, right? Busy minds. I don't want to overload you, okay? I overloaded Karen Ann McDonald. I just started just pouring visual information data right into her window, and she's going information overload. Well, okay, now we're into processing speeds, and so now we're into drive motors, which basically means how much math codes can you process and snap it all together, which means it's what we call the execution phase. Phase in, phase out, right? So you're processing an enormous amount of visual mathematical information codes, right? And that's when for the job that I don't need a contract to do what I do, okay? That's guardian work that naturally is. I'm like the first fire engine out, right? Engine one. I'm engine one, okay? Fire captain one. Fire captain one. I know they put the 2 bars on your collar. Actually, the ones that they put on me were horns. Horns, toot the horn, toot toot toot. Right? like in Tibet, the long horns that they have, right? A sound instrument, right? Yeah, so they have two bars. Is called a captain, a C, which is a 3, an A, which is a 1, a P wave, a T, a transverse wave. Now we're back to A, which is 1, right? Inflow, outflow, right? So, numbers are letters, letters are math, musical codes. So in regards to all the YouTube stuff, that's true. You know what a time looping is, okay? I did the video, Conjoy. I'll try and see if I can pull it up because I probably did a better job in a shorter period of time, which means, and I've covered this before, about imagine that you've got everything that's being held in memory in the Library of Congress. So if you've not been to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and you go in there, you realize, man, there is a lot of visual information data held in memory banks in this place, right? So you can get it in memory banks in, what, if you will, physical text. It's held within paper books, depending on what kind of books that they have there, because if they're running a lot of historical data and they're still running an original collection, which means this was a book that was written 4,000 years ago on, say, different type of stuff like papyrus leaves, or a rock. And they managed to find the rock and took a chunk out of the wall of a cave, for example, and so that's original because they're able to try and date it. And I don't want to get into the time travel stuff about deliberately fabricating things or putting things in place that end up becoming holographic inserts, and now that image becomes a part of that memory bank. I'm not doing this video is not designed to cover holographic inserts. But it does have a lot to do with the speed that you're running to prevent that from happening, or you can burn it off, particularly when you're a transmutation machine. So what it means is that I still get, I call them pop-ups. You know what a pop-up is, like a redirect, a 404 redirect in a hypertext protocol situation. So if I get a pop-up, so for example, throughout the day, I'm in a state of bliss. And then all of a sudden I get a thought form algorithm that is negative in charge. It's like water off a duck. I change it, convert it. Usually what I do is I experience the planet being pink or the sun being pink, like when I go out and I do breath work with the sun. The sun pushes pink back to me. And that's because I'm experiencing my heart, which is a diamond crystal heart. Pink rose of Sophia, right? Foursquare crystal cathedral. So when I'm experiencing pink in my heart, I'm experiencing the pink coming back through the sun. And it's expanding that pink in greater rings and rays coming at me, right at me. Yeah. Pushing the pink, baby. And I do that all the time. I do it sometimes at night. So what I do is I convert a negative experience, okay, which is obviously a lower frequency algorithm that isn't what love is. So that's not what I am. So I'm going to convert it into something that represents what I am, which is what love is. So it immediately gets converted to be experiencing what love is. So now that pop-up was in here because my antenna picked it up here. So what that meant was the wave that I'm experiencing, or the signal's intelligence of what I'm experiencing by virtue of my antenna picking it up, no matter when it happened. Just the very fact that I experienced it means that I'm not supposed to experience that. Remember, now we're back to 4 years of age. I'm not supposed to experience anything less than eternity. Eternity creation spheres. So this is one of the reasons why I mentioned to Conjoy. There are some videos, and I'll put some in your window, where she talks about celestial manifestation mechanics. But what I do is I sort of spoon feed you, okay? Like a mother and a father that loves you. And I'm sort of measuring the speed at which you're learning, because I can tell, or I can experience what you're learning by virtue of what you share with me. So that allows me to realize the level that you're operating at by what you're learning, what we're learning together. So because of what I'm holding in memory, of what I know, of what I've learned over time, space, I don't want to overload all the information. So it's like cherry picking in a way, right? Like I'll share this. That's going to cover some information that is associated with their experiences And those experiences of what she's learned through her journey of self-discovery represents a library held in memory, and then like putting some more visual information data in. And now that's called dynamically linking the information that is represented by what she's now learning, that she can letters and numbers associate with the library that she's running on. Okay? And then she experiences how it fits. The light bulb goes off. Wow! Now she's aware of how it works because she's experiencing how it works. Now she remembers. And that's the whole idea that some people call the Great Awakening, the Great Remembering, and it really is a great remembering. Because when you consider the technologies that have been deployed against consciousness, which is really what it is, to hold consciousness energy captive, what that means is they don't want you to remember who you were or are. That's the bottom line of it, actually. And I did a couple of videos on how assimilation works and used the native Indians, the clans, the 12-strand DNA. I used 12-strand DNA as an example. So, for example, ancient spiritual knowledge has been passed down from generation to generation, from parents as spirit guides to their children. Those children have retained that knowledge and memory, and they do things to maintain what they're aware of by practice, which means they're practicing what they've learned. And that allows them to maintain what they're aware of, what they know that they are in energy, which is what love is, and using love energy to manifest, which is to manipulate the environment to live in the worlds that are born out of what love is. The ancients, right? The ancient spiritual knowledge in which we all knew how to do that. It was not second nature to us. It was first nature because it was natural. Because you're experiencing eternal love, right? To manifest what eternity manifests, to experience what that is, which is what love is. So as I've shared this before, it meant that wherever we went, none of us were ever experiencing anything less than eternity, ever. So now we're back to being 4 years of age, and I have a frame of reference, remembering and knowing who I am. I never lost my memory. And that means that you've had the ability to maintain your shield, which means you're protecting your identity, which means you're protecting the tribal codes. That's a guardian. Okay? That means protecting the 12 by 12 codes, the original codes, which is the point of origin of the primal sound and light fields. So the guardians are the protectors, the keepers of the codes, which are the keepers of the flames, of the original crystalline codes. So we're founder race guardians, okay? That's the truth of it. So therefore, what we share is on behalf of the founders or behalf of the one, which means we represent the law of one, which means I am what love is with all creation, which means one grand creator, which is a blast furnace, right? Of hydrogen, right? Helium, noble gases, right? Now we're back into how all the elements work with tetrahedrons and geometrical, geomanciful, being geomanciful. I'm a Manu, so I speak in Manu terms. Manu, hey Manu, right? NU, neutral, neutron windows, right? Just like the way I shared with all of you the experience that I had, and this is as graphic as I know how to be able to describe what it's like to experience it. But the first time that I met Misha, who later wanted spiritual guidance, the spiritual guidance that she wanted to ask of me to help her was when this moment occurred, when she would look into my eyes. When she first met me, she looked directly into my eyes. Now my soul is locked into hers, and that's known as the windows to the soul, which is the holographic window, are the eyes. So her holographic eyes with her soul was connected with the holographic color codes of my eyes with my soul, and she was doing a map read because they're very psychic. They have high intelligence, okay, to read the soul and the spirit that is operating the software. So when she came around from the picnic table where she was with her children and a couple of friends of mine, one of which lives in this house, she grabbed something that was by a tree and she came running over to where I was and she locked right into my eyes. And it was as if she was 4 years of age. I was 4 years of age. And that childlike innocence was being experienced by me through my heart and soul. She was experiencing with hers. And that's when our eyes and our souls were phase locked. And you could see the expression on her face, the smile on her face, and the light that she was experiencing with her raised her spirit. And she was like a 4-year-old little girl that was just so excited to play with you. That's the first time I met Misha Eyes. That's like love at first sight, right? You realize you have a magnetic connection. The magnet and the magnet, the light and the light, the mirror and the mirror, the soul and the soul, the spirit and the spirit, right? Are phase locked in time-space. That is a timeless space because she was experiencing eternity through my heart and soul. She was experiencing in hers. That's why she asked me to be a spiritual advisor. She knew who she had met, which is an androgynous Manu. So she wanted the help. So I've shared how all that sort of went down in the future, right? But as it relates to the YouTube channel about things that have already happened, it's sort of self-evident, right? Because you're not creating anything of your own, or what I would say, you're not constructing anything of your own. You're not manifesting anything of your own volition. Like if you're an original artist and you're highly creative, and chances are you're using your energy, right, to create something out of the energy you are that you're doing with. That is different from something you've experienced before, or is different from what has been experienced before that's not on the crystalline records, right? Which means you're not making a copy of something that's already happened by another creator being, right? Which means you're not a copycat. And the reason that you know that is a torque speed measurement. How fast is your drive motor? How much fire do you got? Right? So you know if you're hypersensitive and running at hyper speed, you're running at God speed. Your oversoul is... And that's the transmutation machine. Because the transmutation machine's got to be running at a higher rate of speed in order to keep our shield up. And that shield is the 12 by 12. That's the original 12 by 12 shield. That's what we protect. That's why I'm here on the Big Island. You all have a great day. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.